Hello, my friends, and welcome to this pick a card on the bracing reality check that you need at this moment, at this time, as you're progressing into whatever you're progressing into. When you've picked your pile, go ahead and find the timestamp in the description below. I'll see you at your reading. Hello, Pile 1, and welcome to your reading on a bracing reality check that you need right now. Now, I do these readings whenever I upload a reading for here. I'll do that reading on myself, to get the message for myself and then be able to deliver these clearly and as uninfluenced by my personal life as possible. And I'm going to keep it 3 cards because the one that I did was 3 cards and that slapped me right in the face. That was the bracing reality check I needed, so we're going to keep it 3 cards here. Simple, to the point. What is the bracing reality check that you need at this moment? Those are all funky sides. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that I am receiving the message, or rather, the messages, because there's a couple of ways or a few ways to interpret this, and you're going to have to apply it to yourself, like whichever one of these hits closest, or if all of them hit, or multiple, whatever, you have to decide for yourself which one it is. The first interpretation is that the bracing reality check you need is that you're spending a little too much time fantasizing, dwelling mentally on severed ties or some sort of intensity in the past. Intensity being here the 7 of Swords, which is typically associated with kind of like when either we are holding difficult energy towards other people or other people are being difficult towards us. There's this sense of friction between 2 parties and one of them coming out the victor and the other one coming out as the victim, so to speak. And so the idea with that, the 7 of Swords with the World, and in this interpretation, I'm looking more like first at the imagery and then at the traditional definition for the world, where the imagery, she's lying and she's reposing, she's not moving, she's dreaming. So again, fantasizing about this thing in the past, this intensity, this either defeat that you endured or a defeat that you dished out to someone else. And what this is costing you is an effective anchoring into, I want to say reality, but I mean, that's what this reading is about, right? The bracing reality check. But the King of Pentacles, the king of the material realm, the master of the material realm, is someone who is very well anchored and doesn't have a hard time really understanding and interacting with the material realm. And so these 2 energies kind of conflict, where on the one hand we're reposed, there's no movement, there's no action, it's all about like dreaming and fantasy, and on this side, this card, it's all about having a full understanding that in order to really succeed in the material realm, we have to be interacting with it. We have to be putting action into those endeavors. And King, masculine energy, is more so about action than it is about reception. And so the bracing reality check is that your material endeavors are suffering because of the fantasies that you're, I don't want to say enabling, okay, your material endeavors are suffering because of the fantasies that you're entertaining. That's what I was trying to say. And so the world also being about completion, about ending things. And I mean, in this part of the movie, it's when she wakes up. So the dream is over, and so it's the end of the dream, but her life continues, it goes on. And so that's kind of what this is trying to say here. You need to kind of wake up from this fantasy that isn't, these are the words that are coming through, this thing that isn't relevant anymore, this thing that doesn't really have an impact on your present as much as it did in the past. And it's now time for you to wake up from this and wake up to the material realm, wake up to your capacity to succeed and maneuver through, again, the material realm. So that's one way to interpret it. So the first interpretation kind of looks at the Seven of Swords as something that happened in the past. So either, again, the defeat or the victory, that you're kind of dwelling on. The second interpretation kind of looks at the Seven of Swords as a tendency or a personality trait. So it could be your lack of compromise, you not being a very compromising person, or you actually being someone who can be very someone who's comfortable kind of, dishing out your sense of justice in a way that does leave people feeling rather defeated. So again, kind of that lack of being compromising, being on the one end of the spectrum, the least intense end of the spectrum, it can be you being uncompromising. At the most intense end of the spectrum, it's you being outright uncooperative with others. And so what's being said here is that in order for there to be success in the material realm, there needs to be an end, a conclusion to this sense of your sense of being uncompromising, your sense of being uncooperative. So be honest with yourself about what that means. And if it's not that, if it's not about you being abrasive and uncooperative and uncompromising in the sense that you want it your way or the highway, it could be that there's a blockage to your material success, your material progression, because of, again, if it's not you being abrasive, then it's you not being cooperative with others in a way that allows for everyone involved to be able to work on what they're working on effectively. So what this feels like energetically is kind of like a work environment where in order for you to have a successful time in this work environment, you need to look at the ways in which you can be uncompromising, because in this environment, there's going to be a lot more that is gained and achieved if everyone's kind of working with each other and not trying to just have their own way. Because if everybody involved is trying to have their own way, then we're going to have, if there's 10 people involved, then 10 different ways that this thing is trying to get done, instead of you all working in unison to get this one project done. So the King of Pentacles is singular, but the world takes everyone into account. And so that kind of energy is what the second interpretation is about, where there needs to be a conclusion to this singular mentality, minor like energy, and taking that minor energy to this like court card energy, mastery, and understanding that that in itself is like taking on bigger life themes of maturing, of gaining life experience, of understanding that although we have a certain way to feel and we feel a certain way and we think a certain way, that doesn't necessarily have to stand in the way of how we interact in the world and how we collaborate and create, either like collaborate with others and create with others, or just create with and by ourselves. So again, the bracing reality check that you need. Interpretation A, there's a need for there to be a conclusion to a defeat or a victory that you've dealt with in the past, and that in itself is standing in the way of your material endeavors. So again, the way that I worded it before is that your material endeavors are suffering because of the fantasies that you're entertaining. Interpretation 2 is that your material endeavors are suffering because of your lack of cooperation and compromise. So really pay attention to how you are, what part you are playing in the collaborations that you are a part of, if that interpretation is hitting more. And address what needs to be addressed, because what's being said here is that there's, again, a lot more to be gained if you all work in unison to make this project happen, as opposed to, like in this case, you specifically trying to get your own way, and then that kind of gives the energy to everyone else that, like, okay, well, now I want to do it my way, and then it's like there's that lack of compromise and cooperation, and the whole project suffers because of it. So selflessness, basically. I hope that helped. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye. Hello, Pile 2, and welcome to your reading on the bracing reality check you need at this moment in time. I did this reading for myself, and I only needed 3 cards to get my ass handed to me. So we're gonna stick to that. 3 cards for you today on this bracing reality check you're gonna need before moving forward. Okay, this is a brutal message to deliver, so buckle up. You are not the main character, and that's okay. That's okay. Now, before I go any further, that I'm saying you're not the main character does not mean you're a secondary character or that you're not important. The fact remains that we are at the center of our own lives, and as such, yes, we are the main character of our own lives. That can't be argued. I'm not trying to argue against that fact. What I'm arguing against is the mentality that we are the only character in the story, when in reality, it's about us being a character, but there being others in the story. No story is about one person. I mean, I'm sure there's stories about just one character and one person, sure. But life is not just about one person. And this isn't coming through as a message like you're an egotistic person who needs to stop being selfish. It's more about you removing the weight of the responsibility of the main character of the story. And in stories, the main character gets the remarkable privilege and huge responsibility of fixing everybody's problems. Think of your favorite movie, book, whatever, and how the main character basically fixes all of the problems of the book. And that's what a story is. It's meant to introduce a character, give them problems that they are meant to solve. And so fiction, stories, gives us this idea, this false sense that it falls on us and us alone to fix the problems that we face. And that can't be further from the truth. If that were true, then we wouldn't be put into community and in proximity with other people. And if it's been your experience that the people in your proximity and in your community have sucked, that does not mean that that is the only thing that exists. There is an entire world out there that exists outside of that experience. And if you think that isn't true, the 10 of coins is about family. And so although it's not necessarily that this is saying you have to create your own community, it's definitely about you partaking in the creation of that community. So about you putting yourself out there enough to, if that's your example, you putting yourself out there enough to be able to meet people with whom you can create community. One thing that I want to talk about before I get to the Hierophant is how the Fool is the number 0, and there being that circular imagery because of the 0, and how numbers, when we look at the original, like the numbers as the original symbols for the numbers, they were meant to be like representations of, there was meant to be the number of angles in the symbol for the numbers, so that's why 1 has 1 angle and 2 has like 2 angles. I don't, yeah, 2 angles like here and here, whatever. The point being that 0, which has no value, has no angles, and that's why it's round. And that kind of stuck through with how each of these little, his family has like a round, a pentacle, in this case, but that round imagery. And so again, that idea of the Fool is one character, and the Fool is the protagonist of the Fool's journey that we kind of can apply to the major arcana. And so the Fool reversed is here indicating it's not about you alone as the main character, but you in community with other people like-minded like you, other people who have the same, who recognize their role as main characters and as creators in their own lives, and them being in proximity to you. And there's a wisdom attached to accepting how you have more to gain when you share who it is that you are with those like you, instead of taking on this responsibility where like I just have to hone myself and do it all myself and it all falls on me, basically. And when we reject that idea and accept that we do better when we are kind of meant to be in community, or if not be in community, then at least be in collaboration with others to accomplish the goals that we feel fall solely on us. There's wisdom in that, and that wisdom coming from how he's smoking this pipe, and the Hierophant being the white buffalo woman handing a pipe. And the white buffalo woman is among very many sacred things. I'm not going to try to name them because I am not extremely familiar with the story, and I'm not going to try to like tell it wrong, basically. But I do understand that she is meant to be kind of like this herald for a new age and a new way of doing things. And the pipe that she offers is meant to kind of administer her wisdom, and the wisdom that she represents, rather, of this new age that's coming and this new way of doing things. It's her wisdom, and the wisdom rather, that she represents, that is, which is hers as well, but she's just, you get what I'm saying. That kind of, that symbolism of wisdom permeating from her to him, the central figure here kind of being you. And central coming from, we're all at the center of our own lives, but it's not about us being alone there in the spotlight. It's about understanding that when we give space to others to shine, like we give ourselves that space, and we can accommodate and make community or collaboration, make space for collaboration, there's a lot more to gain, because there's space enough for everybody to be seen, instead of one person hogging all of that attention or spotlight or credit or whatever the case is. And finally, what I want to talk about last is how the Fool is 0, which again has no value, which has no placement, but on the number scale, sorry, what am I saying? On the number line, 0 lies at the center between, the negative and the positive numbers. So it's kind of like a middle point. But given that we're here in tarot and we're talking only positive numbers, 0 can kind of be looked at as the beginning, and especially it's over here on the left. So the beginning, 10 is the end, and the Hierophant is 5, which is the sweet middle. And so wisdom being the perfect meeting point between understanding our place as the central figure in our lives, and holding that with truth and wisdom, and merging it, holding it in union with this idea that there is a lot to be gained when we give that space, yes, to ourselves, but also to others, so that they can shine. Again, touching back on that idea of, if there isn't community in your life now, if there is solitude in your life now, part of your role then is to help create that community, whether as an actual family or, found family, whatever that means to you. The wisdom being the perfect meeting, or it doesn't have to be perfect, just the meeting, the congruence, the union, the harmony between you understanding your importance and your own, your central, not importance, your central perspective in your own life, which is inherent to everybody, and understanding that with that, like, in addition to that, we can also give that space to others so that they can shine, and that can create the opportunity for more to be gained, for everyone involved. I hope that helped. I'll catch you for the next one. Bye. Oof. We did ask for a bracing reality check. Now, let me explain the individual cards before I deliver the point blank message, because if I just deliver the point blank message, you're going to think I'm just spewing cliches at you. We start with the King of Swords reversed. The King of Swords, master of intellect, rather, of rationality, of staying unbiased as possible. And it's coming up reversed. So us not making use of the mental faculties that we have, that sounds mean. That sounds like you're dumb. And that's not what I'm trying to say at all. But it's rather that you have this clarity, the sword, clarity that you can cut through any fog. This is a metaphoric sword, obviously. But there's clouds, and they stay basically beneath his head, his space of intellect, which I kind of take to mean that no matter what responsibilities come up for this king, he always keeps his head clear. And so again, that effort to stay unbiased and the effort of remaining rational. And so it coming up reversed, again, not making use of that rationality, that clarity that we have. The Six of Cups is about nostalgia, first and foremost, I guess, if that can be said. But it's about an unequal give and take. So that can be kind of determined by the difference in size, even though they're both they look young, they look like kids. But one is giving something to the other, and she doesn't really have anything to offer. It's just something like, it's a gift. And there's nothing here to suggest that this figure is expecting anything back. It's just the understanding being that someone has something to give. And it being in an equal give and take. And so to that idea of them being young, kind of alluding to childhood and therefore nostalgia. So it can be anything of the past. The tower is anything that is meant to fall. That's why divinity is striking it down, because it's meant to fall. It has no business standing. What has held this thing up, whatever we're talking about, it's unsustainable materials, lies, facades, and that's basically the same thing, right? But like lies in the sense that the stories you make up, facades as in the personalities you make up, to kind of give you clarity on what I meant by that. And those things aren't sustainable foundations for anything, let alone relationships. And that's definitely what we're talking about here, given that we're talking about nostalgia and us not using the clarity that we have and not allowing something to fall when it is meant to fall. So there's something that we know, there's something that has to fall, there's something that we know has to fall. And these are coming up reversed because we're maintaining the nostalgia, the fantasy, the safety of this familiar thing. And the bracing reality check, in essence, is it's time to wake up and it's time to let things crumble and fall and make use of that incredible capacity you have been gifted, that incredible mind, that incredible clarity, as heavy as it is, as difficult as it is, as destructive as it can be. And understand that liberation isn't asked for. It doesn't come because you ask politely. You have to fight for it. You have to create it. You have to, and it's not just you, right? Divinity is there to help you create it destroys what needs to be destroyed, and you take advantage of that opportunity to, move into something else, basically reverse these and make these two upwards, making use of that clarity, letting things fall, and not maintaining this nostalgia that we've been maintaining. Pretty clear cut, so I'm just gonna leave it there. I hope that helped. I will catch you for the next one. Bye.